prestigious and a very renowned resource person who is going to conduct his session very soon. But before that, as it is custom that we present all the resource persons' introduction. So in his introduction, first I say that his name is Dr. Milind Ahire. He is serving in Manmad, FGB Arts, Science and Commerce College, Manmad, Nashik, as associate professor. And he, to his credit, has so many different academic achievements. First of all, in order to develop himself personally, he has completed so many courses. Some of them are postgraduate certificate in teaching of English that was organized by English and Foreign Language University, Hyderabad. Then second course that he completed, postgraduate diploma in teaching of English, that was also organized by the same university in Hyderabad. Then he has completed FDP online short-term course, perspectives in neuro-linguistics, that was organized by Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Like this, he has completed many other short-term or long-term courses as well, or FDP, or orientation, refresher, or short courses. In the same way, he has attended orientation and refresher courses like orientation course in Rani Durgavati Vishwavidyalaya, ASC Arts, Science and Commerce College, Jabalpur, in which he earned or he won a grade A. Then again he completed his orientation course from Empaneled Training Institute in SS Ahmednagar College, Ahmednagar. There also he earned grade A, and like this he completed many other orientation and refresher courses. To his credit, there are many awards and recognitions like top 50 outstanding faculty in India in Arts, Science and Commerce colleges, which was organized by Alexa Wall of Fame in the year 2019. Then International Innovative Academician 2021 in English language teaching, which was organized by International Multidisciplinary Research Foundation and Center for Professional Advancement UK, which was awarded him on 8th March 2021. Then, to his credit, he has so many different publications, or we can say 35 plus publications. It is definitely a very remarkable achievement or feat for an academician in his academic life. So I read some of the titles of his papers which he wrote and presented, and to his credit he got the publications. For example, maximizing effective filters, use of mental imagery in EFL classroom, English for foreign language, English as foreign language, and then learn to imagine and learn to speak. This is the one of his title of his paper. Then linguistic marginalization and the voice of the unvoiced. He has written many papers about the topics which are really needed nowadays. For example, he has written papers on subaltern studies, so which are very much valued, and definitely they are considered as valuable and recognized and awarded also. Then, to his credit, he has so many research papers who he has presented in many workshops, seminars, and conferences. For example, title of his paper is "Problems of Rural Students in Oral Communication in English." See, the title itself is showing how challenging these topics are, and he accepted them and completed in his writing. Then, translation, a linguistic study of continuous professional development from knowledge excellence to knowledge creation. Then he has delivered many speeches or lectures in many different programs of different colleges and universities. For example, delivered a speech in soft skills development program, and the topic of his was communication skills in English. Then personality development, then major varieties of English, then communication skills and interview techniques, then literacy versus illiteracy, and so on and so forth. There are other topics also. He is really a versatile personality who has tried his qualities or his writing skills in many different areas. Then, in the same way, for his co-curricular activities, he has many different credits like he has served as program officer in NSS National Service Scheme from 2011 to 2013-14. Then he is the IQAC coordinator of his college from 2011 to 2015. He has served as IQAC coordinator. Then he is the nodal officer of AISHE, then advisor of Equal Opportunity Cell, and a member of Faculty Development Program since 23rd April 2018. Then he is the coordinator of NAAC in his college, then coordinator of EBCE Community College Diploma, then reviewer of International Journal of English Language Linguistics and Literature, and in the same way, International Journal of Language Linguistics and Discourse. Lastly, he has completed his research activities like PhD from Savitribai Phule University, which was awarded in 17th July 2015. Then PG 5th July 2021. Then PG recognition he has been awarded by the same university on 17th July 2015. So, dear participants, you can now understand how versatile our resource person is. And one more thing I would like to share with you that he has shared his knowledge, his experience, his expertise in our college on various and many occasions. And he has always responded positively whenever we have invited him as the resource person. So today also I very warmly welcome him for his session, and thank you, sir, for responding positively and accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Munawar, sir. Am I audible?
You are completely audible, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. Before I begin to talk on an aspect of quality education based on the recent revised guidelines of NAAC and guidelines of NEP 2020, let me thank the organizing committee for inviting me. And there is a kindness in the words of Professor Munawar, and out of that kindness, he has this elaborate introduction. Thank you very much for that as well. And Honorable Principal of J.A.T College, Dr. Harun Ansari sir, the Academic and Administrative Coordinator, Dr. Salma Sattar Madam, my friend and IQAC Coordinator of your college, Professor Munawar sir, all the respected colleagues from all the departments of the college, and dear participants. I hope I have 40 to 50 minutes to share my views, and there are questions, actually not views, there are questions that I am running after to get some responses as a teacher. And I will put, this is a very good platform, I feel personally, to put those questions before you. And there are people among youth who can better respond to those questions, and my understanding of those questions will be improved. That is what my intention is before accepting this. After accepting this particular invitation, and thank you all for having me here today. Munawar sir, if you allow me, I'll share with you my presentation.
Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, sir. Your slides are visible, sir.
Okay, let me put it on slideshow mode. Right. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Oh, thank you. So as I said, it's a good initiative by J.A.T College and Internal Quality Assurance Cell, and I personally thank you people for having a program of faculty development. And my talk will also relate directly to this issue of faculty development. When I went through the list of speakers that you invited, I also thank you for those, the list of speakers earlier to me who shared their views on this quality education. And those are the names. Those are the names in their respective fields who have authority to talk on quality education, or who have expertise to talk on guidelines of NEP 2020 and how we can have quality education. In that list, a small name or a name is included with your kindness, and that is mine. So I do not share that authority. I do not share that expertise personally, I feel, who can talk with an authority on quality education. Because I am in the phase of learning for many years, and I feel that there are so many years to come when I need to improve my learning and understanding of quality education. But before I talk about what I think of quality education, as I said, I have a couple of questions to respond to, and this is, again, I repeat, this is a good platform to share those questions. Now, when I saw the title of your FTP, that changing trends in quality measures in higher education, it's heavy. I personally felt that this is very heavy to digest as a teacher, because there are a number of factors that we need to look at, and there are a number of factors again to respond to. Then what are the changing trends, and what are those quality measures we need to take in order to respond to these trends? Changing trends, they are changing, they keep on changing, and how we can respond to these changing trends with the help of new educational policy, which is again reflected in all the guidelines or the manuals and standard operating procedures of NAAC. So there are a number of factors involved into this, and as a result of it, we expect, and it's very good on our part to expect, that what quality education we can have, and we as teachers, we as the stakeholders of this process, how can we contribute to the process of quality education? I apologize for not in a position to talk with an authority on NAAC, that what guidelines are there and how they can contribute to quality education, and what are their guidelines of National Education Policy 2020, which can also help us to have quality education or measures of quality. The speakers that you invited earlier, I was not lucky enough, fortunate enough to listen to those speakers, but I'm sure that they must have talked about NAAC guidelines and the guidelines of National Education Policy, and how their direct relevance is there in terms of building a quality education in our country. But when I talked about myself, that what role, what contribution I can give to this process of quality education, I have chosen a very small component of this process, and I'll be talking on that process. I will not go into the deep of NAAC guidelines and guidelines of NEP. Rather, I will concentrate more on what responses can we have as a teacher, as teachers, to ensure or to contribute to the quality measures in the changing time of education. So let me share with you, and there are, to be very, very honest, there are only 6 slides I could prepare on this. And out of those 6 slides, only 4 slides are of direct relevance. Okay, so let me minimize this first. Okay, here it is. So what I felt when we talk about quality education, what place we have in this process and what role we can take, what contribution we can make in order to contribute to this larger process of quality education. Then as a teacher, I take this question as a teacher, and I feel that we teachers can respond to this question, and a couple of questions that I said I have. The first question that I want to respond to this is that what freedom I have as a teacher to contribute to this process of quality education, because we are not in a position of policy framework. We are not involved in the process of curriculum and syllabus development. We are not directly involved in the process of assessment and evaluation procedures. Then what role we can take? The second question, that what role we can take, what place we have in this process, and if at all we do not have a direct role, we do not have direct freedom to contribute to this process, what can be our measures, what can be our strategies as a teacher within the classroom, outside the classroom, which can directly or indirectly contribute to the process of quality education that is happening around us. I felt that if we want to contribute, and we are there in a position to contribute in a way, in a direct or indirect way, that there are certain dots in this process. And I, as a teacher, strongly felt this many a times, that these dots are actually not interlinked directly. We apparently feel that there are connection, or there is a connection among these dots, but when we work on the field, and that is classroom, we regularly, or we always, I personally have this experience, that we feel that these dots have not very well connection with one another. And when a child is given a number of dots and asked to join the dots, then only after joining the dots, the child gets a visualization of a good picture. Good, I mean to say, a picture is there to be seen. So when we see that picture, we come to know that, okay, if we have a particular connection, particular line of connection among these dots, then only there will be a good picture. And in order to have a good picture to see, we need to join these dots to define what roles these dots can play and how they can be joined in order to have a better picture, a picture of quality education before us. Now, out of these dots, I have selected only one, because this is a very large canvas of quality education, and there are a number of components that can play their important role to ensure quality education. So what we can do, we can select one of them which we are directly related to, and we can work on that. And after working on that, I'm sure that there will be some contribution on our part to this larger process of quality education. During my introduction, I'll have a passing reference to 2 important educational systems in the world. The first one is, which is regarded as the most effective education system, and that is of Finland. It is a progress or a developed nation. There is one more nation whose education system is highly effectively progressing, and that nation is Bhutan. Bhutan is working so hard on its education system to improve, and there are a number of similarities between a developed country like Finland and a developing country or less developed country like Bhutan. But there are some common dots that these two nations have linked in terms of ensuring quality education. And as I said, there will be passing references to that. Now, if we want to talk about what these dots are and how we can find relation, how we can strengthen the relation among these dots, then we will be in a better position to understand what role we can play or what strategies we can have to better respond to the question of quality education. We have a very different context of teaching and learning. We work in a very different context. There are a number of challenges. There are a number of problems. There are a number of difficulties that we on a daily basis face. But many people and all of us, including me as well, we talk about that these are the problems. There are problems which have a qualitative difference. Faced by students and teachers in metropolitan cities. There are challenges which again have qualitative differences faced by students and teachers in places or in place like Malegaon. So challenges are different, and then resources are again different to respond to these challenges. We are in different situations, we work in different contexts. But after all, we have one role to perform. We as teachers have to respond to these challenges, to these problems or difficulties in order to ensure at least contribute to some extent how we can contribute to the larger process of quality education. Now, these dots are, our goal is quality education, and everyone is talking about. NAAC is also focusing on this, based on the new education, that is National Education Policy of 2020. Everyone is talking about this. I will not go into the details of this, but the one crux that all these guidelines have is that they want to ensure quality education, because there is a dire need, there is an urgent need of this in our country. And the developed countries who have outperformed well in different affairs of different human affairs, there is a common thread among them, and that is that they ensure quality education for their citizens. And where we are in a process of evolving new ways to respond to the issue of quality education. My concern is that there are a number of dots that we need to find relation within that circle, and how we as teachers can respond to find that relation. As a teacher, I believe that these are a number of dots. Apparently, as this image shows, these dots are interlinked. Apparently, they are interlinked. But when you actually work on them, you will find that these have links which are not very well connected to one another. And that is why the final outcome is not as expected. The final outcome is quality education. Then how each individual component, each individual dot should have interrelation with other dots in the circle. And if we define very well, if we implement very well, if we respond to each of these components very well, and there are strategies to respond, there are measures to respond, then only there will be an outcome of quality education. As a teacher, if you look at these components, I have selected major components here. There are many micro components involved in this process, but due to time limit, I have selected this. Now, the first component that we generally do not talk about, and we do feel, I as a teacher do feel that this is not my part of this process. This part is actually decided, actually given, actually allotted to someone else. So policy we do not decide, and we are not a part of this policy making process. Okay. Second, who decide the policy? Then there are number of things that go into this process. Now there are questions: are these people in a position to decide a policy for a student, for a teacher working in Malegaon, working in Manmad College, working in J.A.T College, working in Surgana College? Are they very well versed with the situation, teaching learning situation of these contexts, these situations? There are a number of factors to this. I do not answer yes or no, because simple yes or no answer will not do the thing. Second, syllabus. Again, there are people, a group of people who decide on this. Now, if you try to find out a link between policy making and syllabus, you will find there is a gap. Okay. Now, if there is a gap, then we have as teachers this responsibility to bridge this gap within the periphery of our classroom. Moving on, we have books. The books that we receive the books. We do not produce books. We as teachers receive books, and the syllabus and the books. There is a gap, and we all know what scale of gap is there. Then we have teachers. Teachers do not have direct involvement in these three components. They do not have direct involvement or relation in producing of books, in designing curriculum and syllabus, in making policy. But though they do not have a direct direct involvement in making of these three, but they are forced sometimes, and they need to accept whatever is given, whatever is prescribed, and they are given this responsibility to implement the policy through the syllabus designed with the help of books given. So the first gap I personally feel is that if teachers do not have a direct involvement with these three aspects of design or decision-making aspect, then how feasible it is to ask the teacher to implement these aspects in the classroom as expected by these three components. And I find that there is a gap. Now, moving on, we have another aspect of this process: students. Now, students and teachers are in a better position to interact with one another. And there are multiple gaps again here between these two components that are teachers and students. Now, moving on, we have three components: assessment, evaluation, and outcome. Now, the teacher is more concerned with books, syllabus, and policy. The students are more concerned with assessment, evaluation, and outcome. Students do not feel very much interested in what policy is designed for us, what kind of syllabus is designed for us, and what books are prescribed as tools to implement the policy. It is the teacher who is interested and who is having the responsibility to implement this. Students are concerned with the last three dots. They feel that we need to face the assessment, we need to have a good evaluation by the evaluating agency, that is college and university, and they feel that we are more concerned with what outcome we have. But the final outcome will be solely based upon the interrelationship or interrelations among all these factors, and they have reciprocal interrelations. But we in a system do not follow that reciprocal interrelation. Okay, now where it's on a very negative note, I personally feel to talk about the gaps and difficulties and challenges and problems and all that. Let's talk about what we can do as teachers to respond to these challenges. And then having thought on this, I felt that there is one way. There are multiple ways. Each individual teacher or the stakeholder can come up with number of strategies, number of ways to respond to these questions, to these challenges. I, as a teacher, personally feel that one aspect I can go with that can help me to contribute my part to this process of quality education, and what that one is. And talking about gap, I was talking about the gaps. Before I move on to what can we do to respond to these questions, let me spare a minute for this slide again. That what is the gap and what scope is there? What scale of gap is there? Then there are students. I have given the singular name here. There are students and there are teachers. I personally feel that there are a number of dots to be connected to have a thread between teachers and students, right? Teachers means I, as a teacher, I do not go with an example of other teachers. I go with my example, because after all, if there is a blame to be given, to be attached, then I am there to be attached the blame. The students are there and the teachers are there, that are the stakeholders of this quality education. They have a number of dots to join. What those dots are, the coming slides will talk about these dots. And these are the dots that we are in a position to connect. We as teachers can connect these dots. There are other dots which we are not in a position to connect, but here those dots we can connect easily. Easily, I do not mean very easily. We can connect. We have the freedom, we have the choice, we have the resources, or we can have our own resources to bridge or to join these dots and contribute to the process of quality education. Then we have designers. There is a gap and there are dots between teachers and designers. And we are not in a good position to connect these dots. There should be some initiatives from the higher position to the lower one to connect these dots. And unfortunately, many a times we feel, and I personally felt this, that these dots are not very well joined, and there are not policies. There are less number of policies. There are less number of initiatives, or very little efforts on the part of higher authorities to join these dots between designers and teachers. Many times this is very theoretical. Practical aspects are vary a lot from theory. So there are dots between teachers and designers. Last but not least, there are dots between policymakers and designers. Policymakers are not the ones who design the quality measures of education. And designers are not the teachers actual working on the field who can design the resources to implement the policy of quality education. So there are gaps among these four components of quality education or education itself. So what we can do as teachers to bridge these gaps? Teachers are not in a position to bridge the gap between designers and teachers. They are also not very well given the opportunity to or the role to bridge the gap between designers and policymakers. There is only one area where teachers can respond or teachers can contribute to join the dots, and that area, that scope is of between students and teachers. Now, here is, I must say, here is one aspect of initiative, or one initiative that can help teachers to join these dots and have a unified whole that can help us contribute to the process of quality education. Why I have selected this? There is one reason. When Munawar sir asked me for this talk, he literally invited me for this. Then I searched on the aspect of quality education and what can be possible responses to making education qualitative, or let's say quality oriented. Then I searched the educational systems which are reputed around the world, and I reached two nations, as I earlier said. Bhutan is one of the examples, and Finland is regarded as the nation who tops in the list of quality education. When I went through two documents related to the National Educational Framework in Bhutan in 2009, they published a framework that is called National Educational Framework. And when I went through the educational system of Finland, I mean, not personally, I say, I read the documents related to the educational system in Finland. Keeping aside all the structural part of that education system, the aspect that the education system worked more on is CPD, and CPD is a short form of continuous professional development. In these two nations, the policymakers and the people involved in decision making, these people have concentrated, involved a lot of energy, invested a lot of efforts in developing their teachers. They have felt that, and these are the words of the king of Bhutan, Jigme, if I'm not wrong, Jigme Wangchuk, that he says that if we want to respond to the new challenges, as the title of our FDP shows, that changing trends, if we want to respond to these changing trends, we cannot go with the old material, old resources, and old techniques, old tools of responses. We have to come up with new ways, new techniques, new tools, or modified tools, or adapt tools or techniques in order to better respond to these questions of quality education. One aspect that I talked about, or I am talking about, is continuous professional development. Cambridge University has its wing called Cambridge Assessment and Cambridge Training. Oxford University also does this thing, and Macmillan Education. These are some of the famous names in the field of education who work a lot on CPD, that is continuous professional development. I will not go into the details of the present situation of CPD and how we are not very much versatile in terms of providing professional training to our teachers. But Finland and Bhutan, these two nations, worked a lot on this. Bhutan, that king Jigme Wangchuk, in 1971 invited experts across the world, means from reputed institutions, reputed universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, and many more. They invited the people to Bhutan and they asked those expert people to train their teachers because they felt, and he actually felt, this need of having quality trained teachers. He believed that if teachers are well trained, then their interaction with their students will be in a way to ensure quality in education. Other aspects are, I say, para aspects, which indirectly or directly contribute to this. But these two stakeholders, teachers and students, are in direct contact with each other. So teachers are to be very well trained in their subjects, in their expertise, and then only we can expect a good product. Sorry to say product. We can expect quality education. So they worked on this, and there is an urgent need in our nation to work on this. I, as a teacher, in this formal system of education, I am forced sometimes, and I am given the chance to develop my professional skills only twice in these 15 years. Why? Because I have to go to, as Munawar sir said, that I have to go and attend refresher courses and orientation courses. And if I am not wrong, 2 refresher courses and 1 orientation course, and a couple of short-term courses will suffice the purpose. Means throughout your service of 30 years or 35 years, you need only 4 to 5 courses, professional development courses. And that's why there are many reasons, and this is one of the reasons why we are lagging behind in terms of quality education. In Bhutan and in Finland, you will go if you go through their system, they invest a lot of money. They have separate provisions of budget or in budget, which actually contribute to the professional development of teachers. They work a lot on this. We are not working very hard on this. We as teachers can, on our level, have our continuous professional development. I personally believe in that if the government or the formal system does not allow us to have continuous professional development, it's our moral duty as teachers to move on with these number of trainings. And nowadays, through this online mode, there are a number of opportunities across the world with reputed institutes and universities, which can help you develop yourself as a teacher, as a professional. So this area needs to be very well responded in the formal system of education. And this one aspect, as I said, there are a number of aspects, but among those aspects, this one aspect is directly related to teachers and their performance in the classroom, outside the classroom, which can contribute to quality education. So training is required. If I share with you my personal example, I say I haven't got the opportunity to complete my B.Ed. Means I haven't enrolled. I didn't get the chance to enroll for this B.Ed course, where it is expected to learn the professional skills of teaching. I qualified SET exam and I got the opportunity to teach. There are a number of things that I need professional training. If I stand in the classroom, I need to understand the number of components of the classroom interaction. And for those number of components, I need a serious training. I personally feel, and I confess, if I have training in those aspects, then I will be in a better position to respond to the query and question of quality education. Now, what are those different aspects for which the teachers like me need improvement, need professional training? Then there are a number of, and I'm quite sure, I'm hopeful that if we get good training, enough training in these aspects of teaching and learning process, there will be the possibility of contributing to the quality education. The first one is learning needs. I don't know whether it is taught in B.Ed course or not, to identify, to understand the learning needs of students. Okay, so when we talk about remedial courses, remedial teaching and remedial teaching for slow learners and advanced learners, there we just talked about these learning needs. But before I go to the classroom, am I in a position to identify what learning needs my students, individual students, I say? We have a very bad system of generalization, that a course book applicable to the students of Pune University or a metro city like Pune is equally applicable to a student in Surgana, a student in J.A.T college, a student in Manmad college. But if you go deep into it, you will find with this surprise that all these people, all these students have different learning needs. A learning need of a student from Pune will be strikingly different from the learning need of a student learning in J.A.T college or Surgana college or Manmad college. Right? Learning needs of FYBA students will be different from the learning needs of SYBA student in respect to each subject.
Sir, you are not audible.
Hello, Munawar sir,
Yes,
am I audible?
you are audible as well as visible.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'll share with you my present. There are only one or two slides to talk on, and give me only 5 more minutes. As I said that Cambridge University published a very good booklet on learner well-being. We in a regular mode of teaching in a formal setup of classroom interaction are not very much interested in knowing, in understanding what well-being students bring to the classrooms. If we understand these factors very well before we interact with our students, I'm sure, and research has shown this, that if we respond to these components of classroom interaction, there will be a good outcome of classroom interaction. There is a need of training in the area of how to build, how to sustain, and how to strengthen the rapport between teachers and students. Going to the classroom on time, and coming out of the classroom when the time is over is not the only thing we can sustain with now onwards. Based on new education policy and the guidelines issued by NAAC from time to time, the traditional mode of interaction will not suffice the purpose. If at all we expect quality education, so there needs a good training in terms of how to build teacher-student rapport. There are multiple ways. Okay. Then we have classroom management. It's a very heavy issue to digest for teachers like us, because in a country like India, there are classes of 150 students in a class, 200 for compulsory English. Okay, in a FYBA classroom, in FYBCom classroom, we witness more than 100 students, more than 150 students. Now, a teacher who is not very well trained in the area of classroom management will not do justice with the interaction that happens in the classroom, and it's very challenging task on the part of the teacher to at least manage the class for 50 minutes. And I personally feel that there needs a training into this. Then instructional strategies. I personally know one, that is going to the classroom, talking to the students. If students get the chance to talk, then there will be a two-way communication. But beyond this, as I said, Cambridge University, then Oxford University, these people are working very hard on how to come up with student-based, student-specific, group-based specific or student-specific strategies of instruction. We cannot survive with only lecture kind of strategy. I do not say that it's bad. No, it's not. It's good. But there are changing trends, as the title shows. Along with those changing trends, we need to change, adapt new strategies, new ways of responding to the question of, to the component of classroom interaction. And there are a number of very good courses introduced by British Council, by Cambridge University and Oxford University. On Coursera as well, you will find a number of courses which can provide a very good training to teachers. Because around the world, there are teachers, magical teachers, wonderful teachers who work on different aspects of classroom. And this is one of the aspects, one of the dots, I must say, which needs training. If we talk about instructional materials, we generally know that books are the only instructional material provided to us. Recently, I attended one webinar of Cambridge University, and it was based on mediation in the classroom and how we can mediate. Meditate is a different thing. Mediation in the classroom. The speaker talked about how we can involve as a teacher, how we can have a role of a student as a participant of the learning process, how we can come up with different interesting material besides books, prescribed books. There are a number of instructional materials which can have a good impact, a larger impact upon the learning of students. After all, a teacher, when enters the classroom, he or she has this intention that the topic given or topic at hand needs to be understood by the students. And now it is the challenge and opportunity again for the teacher how to make the things more interesting with the help of available instructional materials. And there are a number of, as I said, these universities provide you free to use resources, instructional materials that can be adapted to be used in our classrooms. And there are training sessions in developing these materials again. Materials production is a very, very essential component, essential dot of quality education. When I went to Hyderabad, that is Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, now it's turned into a university called English and Foreign Languages University. Then there is a separate department of designing instructional materials, that is materials production, department of materials production. Do we have a kind of thing in our colleges, in our schools? No, we do not have, because that particular aspect is given to someone called expert who doesn't really have the understanding of the context in which these instructional materials are used, and they design it. I don't want to go into the details of it. Now, last but not least is assessment practices. Cambridge Assessment English talks about multiple ways of assessment. We are accustomed with one or two ways of assessment, and that are also very, very traditional ones. Teachers need a good training in terms of devising their own course-specific and student-specific, subject-specific assessment practices. An assessment practice used for mathematics may not be valid for English. So course-specific and student-specific assessment practices need to be there, or need to be evolved from teachers, and that will evolve once teachers are trained. So I personally feel continuous professional development in relation to all these 7 aspects, if not all. These are the 7 major ones I have selected. If good CPD is given, then there is a hope of good, or let's say quality education in place. With this, I conclude my talk. I once again thank the organizing committee and the principal of this college, Harun sir, for giving me this opportunity to understand better what ways I can have to respond to these questions of quality education. Thank you one and all for having patient listening. Thank you very much. Over to Munawwar sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a relevant topic that you have chosen and delivered your lecture. Sir, there is a question. May I ask you?
Yeah, please. I'll try to respond if I am able.
I have been always in perplexity regarding creating the research culture in the small town colleges like ours. So what should be done? Because you see, research has become integral part of teaching and learning as well as the curriculum nowadays. So what should be done? As our colleges don't have the research centers as well.
Right. In terms of research, as guidelines issued by NAAC and this National Education Policy, if we consider these guidelines, research is made as an essential part of teaching and learning process. Why it is done? There is a rationale behind this, as long as I understand this. That when a teacher researches or carries research, he comes up with new ideas. And there is an area called action research. Recently in LVH College, they organized one research methodology FDP, and I was given the opportunity to share some views on action research. So I shared with them one example of action research, which was published, and that was carried with my FY become compulsory English students. So research is an essential part of teaching and learning process. Generally, what we feel that teaching and learning process is on one hand, and research is on other hand. Why it happens? Because there are a number of components related to separate components. Research for promotion, research for better to have better responses to the teaching learning process. I conducted one research, a small action research in my classroom, as I said in FY.com, that how videos, that is TikTok videos, can help students build motivation. During this online mode of teaching and learning, we were not in a position to ask the students to come to the class, but we were to assess them and give them marks in terms of internal marks. And once I watched TikTok WhatsApp status of one of my students, and he recorded a video in Hindi, and the kind of confidence, the kind of expressions that I saw in his behavior, in his performance, I thought, why not to avail this opportunity of using TikTok videos to connect with my classroom teaching. So I asked them, as a part of internal assessment, I asked them to create TikTok videos where they can introduce themselves. And happy to share with you that I could get 78 videos of my students, and they are there with me, all of them. Then I worked on the same idea. Then for the second semester, again, I asked them to prepare the videos with a different topic, like expressing likes and dislikes. Then I found that comparing first video with the second one, I found that students are more involved, more motivated while recording the video. They paid more attention to their clothes. They paid more attention to the background they can have. They paid more attention to the words that they can use, the choice of words I mean to say. So I found that there is a kind of opportunity for me as a teacher to use this resource, to use this technique or tool to work on the motivation of my students. Because rural area students are not very much interested in learning English, because as it is compulsory subject only, that is why they come to the compulsory English class. If choice is given, then there will be different responses to that choice. So I feel research is important, but classroom-based research, that is called action research, is should be should be responded urgently. Because if I publish 20 papers on literature or on language, I need to think if those publications have direct relevance to the involvement of my students in the classroom. If there is no link, direct or indirect, I personally feel my papers are of no relevance. My papers are only for promotion, only to get the points in cash. I hope I have responded.
Very well. You have responded very well. Sir, the teachers who are very much devoted, like you, can really create miracles in teaching and learning and definitely transform the students. Now, sir, as we are running short of time, so we conclude this session. And thank you very much for making your session so engaging by the analogy of connecting the dots with which you explained everything in terms of quality measures that are required in higher education as per NAAC and NEP 2020. On behalf of J.A.T management, administrators, our principal, Dr. Ansari Mohammad, sir, academic and administrative coordinator, Dr. Salma Sarkar ma'am, and I myself, IQAC coordinator, we are very much grateful to you, sir, for having such an engaging and wonderful session. Sir, really, whenever we listen to you, we feel enlightened, we feel renewed in terms of many new things. So thank you very much for giving your precious time, extracting your time from your busy schedule.